I've been a Buddhist practitioner and a meditation teacher for a long time now, maybe over 30 years. And during that time, I've been very fortunate to be able to teach many people how to meditate. I've taught a lot of classes, a lot of workshops, led retreats online and in person, and taught maybe 200 or more people how to be meditation teachers. So, in other words, I've had a lot of conversations about spiritual practice and the place of meditation. And I have to say, it happens fairly frequently that during an introductory talk, what is meditation? What is it not? What are the misconceptions? How do you do it? Someone, usually someone quite smart, wants to know, okay, enough with that. Can we get past all of that beginner stuff? And what about these advanced practices? What about mantras? What about mudras? What about guru yogas? What about Mahamudra and Mahaati and various truly profound practices that even if I wanted to answer, I couldn't because they're beyond my ken. And what I often want to say is, well, those are really interesting questions. Those are really profound practices, and I'd love to tell you about them. But let's first see if we can find our breath. Let's see if we can stay mindful of breath in and out for 3 cycles. And let's start there. Can you find your breath? Can you settle your mind to any extent? And, that's not easy. So I'm not saying, oh, poor you, you want to know these advanced things, but you simpleton. No, I'm in the same boat as everyone else. But what I'm trying to say is it's important to figure out how to enter the path. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is called the 7 characteristics of a Dharmic person, which is you. And before we get into it, I want to remind you that if you'd rather watch me hem and haw and harangue and say words, instead of listen, you can. These podcasts are now on my YouTube channel, and there'll be a link to it somewhere here in the show notes. And at the end of this podcast, I'm going to continue my completely self-centered addition to this podcast, which is to share with you a piece of music that I love and that has been meaningful to me. Okay, here we go. So first, what is a Dharmic person? Now, you may think it means the 7 characteristics of a Buddhist person, but that's not what this means. Whatever your Dharma is, Dharma means way or path or teaching or wisdom, that's up to you. I think these 7 characteristics can apply no matter what your chosen path is. So I just want to be clear up front. This doesn't mean you have to be a Buddhist Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, so I think we can get away with a more expansive view of things. So here we go. The first characteristic of a Dharmic person is called passionlessness. Now, that doesn't sound very exciting. I get that. It sounds like you're dull because you have no longings, no wishes, no sorrows, no rages, no joys. And that's not what is meant here by passionlessness. Doesn't mean you're like a block of wood. It means that you are able to tolerate the inconveniences and irritations of everyday life. At least that's where we could start. So we live in a culture that says, oh, you don't like to spend so much time boiling water? Here's a super fast electric kettle. Or you're hungry, but you don't feel like going out, so you order lots of food to be delivered. I love food to be delivered, so I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do. But when you just can't be bothered to take care of the details of your own life, when you're constantly looking for ways to minimize the small irritations of everyday activities. This is true, I was just reading an article about the best sponges to use when you're washing your dishes by hand. Now, I'm like, okay, I'm sure some are better than others, but the amount of time and energy that I put into dissecting the spongeness of sponges so that I could have just the right sponge was a little bit much. I mean, I want a good sponge, y'all. But passionlessness here means I'm not on a constant hunt for the best sponge, the best socks, the best shampoo, whatever it might be. I mean, you should have the best and so forth. But when we spend a lot of our waking hours wondering what could be better about the everyday things that we use, I mean, there's a time and a place for that, but it's also quite a big distraction. Constantly refining the tools of everyday life can be a waste of time. The second characteristic of the Dharmic person is called contentment, which is a little bit related to passionlessness. But passionlessness has this quality of constantly nudging, constantly agitating, constantly looking for what's missing. And contentment means, well, you see what's here, and there are some things that are missing, but you're like, it's okay. It's okay. Right now, my life is okay. In fact, let me slow down a little bit and not rush through my morning routine, let's say, so I can get to a more important task. Sure, we all have important tasks and things we have to do, but while I'm in my morning routine, while I'm doing my meditation practice, while I'm making breakfast and washing the dishes and doing whatever it is that I do or that you do before the day really starts in earnest, can I slow down and appreciate and respect the everydayness of everydayness? It's quite beautiful when you slow down to look at it. The third characteristic of the Dharmic person is called fewer activities. And this means you're not always looking for something to do. You're not always wondering what's everybody else doing and where can I go out and who's having a party and what fun things are going on in town and how many things can I put on my to-do list because I am reluctant to be quiet and alone. I mean, it's good to have fun. It's good to be with your friends. It's good to go out and do things. But here, too many activities doesn't mean not doing things that are fun. It means noticing when you're piling on to your everyday schedule all sorts of things so that you do not have a moment to consider your inner world, your home world, your truer priorities. It's a form of anxiety. And at first it can feel additionally anxiety provoking to reduce activities. Like, what am I going to do? I have an hour where there's nothing going on. Well, see what happens. See what happens. Our minds, our hearts long for space. And we happen to live at a time on planet Earth, I believe, where there are countless entities fighting to occupy that space. So we want to hold our own with our inner silence and not give it away for poor reasons. So fewer activities doesn't necessarily mean less socializing. It could also mean something like fewer projects. I don't know about you, but I got a lot of projects, and they range from things like, I want to renovate my kitchen someday. I mean, that's a small project in the general scheme of things, but I have other projects like, I want to shampoo all the rugs in the house. I mean, that's a good one, but I think about that one. Like, how am I going to do that? When am I going to do that? I want to investigate fun things to do in Oaxaca, Mexico, where I hope to go on a vacation sometime in the near future. None of these things are bad, but when you have so many projects, so many things occupying your mind, first worldy though they may be, it's a little off-putting to our deeper wisdom when all the space is occupied by conventional concerns. The fourth characteristic of the Dharmic person is called good conduct. It doesn't mean having great manners, although I think great manners are very important. It doesn't mean doing the right thing or saying the right thing, It means navigating through your world with a continuing willingness and a recognition when that willingness has flagged to be mindful and aware of what is happening within you and around you. You're willing to see clearly the experiences and people and moments that you encounter. In addition, good conduct means having some sense of care, being careful with all the things you do. So if you want to pour some hot water into a cup of tea, you don't pour it on your hand. If you want to uh, go out for a walk, you put your shoes on, both shoes are tied. These are very simple, ordinary things. But when we're speeding through our experience, through our world, we can become careless and break things and drop things and spill things. I mean, that's human. We're all going to do those things. But how much of those experiences are because you weren't paying attention? So good conduct here means paying attention. Now, some things are very easy to pay attention to. Someone says something really nice to you, you're watching a show that you love, you put on a sweater that feels good on your skin, whatever it might be. Some things not so easy to pay attention to. So I'm just thinking of a conversation I had just before pressing record for this podcast. I hope this isn't too much of a divergence, and there may be crying on my part, but I was messaging with a friend who has a dog. The dog is old, and the dog is not well. And she just told me that they have decided to let their little doggy boy, that's what she called him, go on Thursday. Today's Monday. She told me, she said, I know you lost your cat recently. And yes, we had 2 cats and they both died within the last year. And if there's anything in this world that I do not want to pay attention to, it is that grief. The grief of losing a pet. I don't know what else to call them because they're not like my pet. They're family members, but they're not people at the same time. The grief of that loss, let's just say of our cats and our dogs, is incalculable. It is shocking. It is the most extreme experience of grief. I've been lucky. I mean, I have lost people I love. Certainly, there are people with many, many more losses than me, but I still cry almost every day because I miss them so much. And there's nothing that can console me. There's no explanation. There's no, oh, well, they lived a good life or you were a good person to have them. Okay, whatever. I don't want to open my awareness to that grief because honestly, I don't know. And there have been many moments in the last year where I have not known if I could bear that. However, what I told my friend and what I'm telling myself and what I'm telling you is I am a practitioner, as are you, of something, quite sure. And I can have the courage to open to this heartbreak. Not all the time, but still, I can have the courage to open to this heartbreak. I'll just say that again. Because it's here. Opening to it will not fix it. It will not change it. It will not speed it. It will not diminish it. It will not remove one iota of missing. But it's true. It's true. And this, I suppose, is why in some circles, spiritual practice is also called the practice of warriorship. Sometimes people get a little wiggy on the word warriorship, like it means you're going to take out a samurai sword and behead them or something. But no, a warrior, a spiritual warrior, has good conduct, is one way of saying it, and has the ferocity and tenderness of heart to open and remain aware as much as possible in the human experience. The enemy of the spiritual warrior is aggression and not wanting to face the realities. That is a form of aggression and therefore antithetical to warriorship. Anyway, I got off on a little tangent here about cats and dogs. But when I think about good conduct today and that it means opening, it doesn't just mean being super buttoned up and precise, because life is friggin' messy and full of sorrows. So where's your good conduct in those circumstances? Let us be beautiful messes together, my friends. The fifth characteristic of the Dharmic person, and remember there's 7, so we're heading in down the home stretch, is called awareness of the teacher. Now, back in the day, when these characteristics were defined, presumably there was an actual teacher, like wearing robes, named Rinpoche or Roshi, or some sort of a teacher who was supporting you on your journey, because that used to be the norm. I believe that societies were somehow structured around wisdom holders, at least in my imagination. That's true. So what about us? We live in a world that is not centered around wisdom holders, but still we find teachers and we find teachings that cut through bullshit over and over again, not by being aggressive, not by calling you on your shit, quote unquote, whatever the hell that means, but by speaking to you loudly and clearly in your own mind with a sense of freshness and genuineness. So whether you find a teacher or teachings in a book, in a talk, in a retreat, in your own mind, be grateful. Be aware of the teacher / the teachings, because when we encounter things that broaden our minds and soften our hearts and make us more confused, not more knowledgeable, we're pointing in the right direction, and we can be grateful for those teachings and beings and experiences that clarify and confound in equal measure. The sixth characteristic of the Dharmic person is called propagating prajna. Prajna means wisdom. Propagating, you know what that means. So here, propagating prajna doesn't mean telling everybody what you know. Most people don't really care for that. It means remaining connected to the view of your spiritual path as you go through everyday life. So it doesn't mean being, holier than thou or pious or anything like that. It means not forgetting the truth of things like impermanence, not forgetting to be aware of the teacher or teachings, not forgetting the importance of good conduct, and so on, but by blending all the things you've learned with your everyday life. Your everyday life is not separate from your spiritual life. So here, propagating prajna has to do, to me, with the Buddhist view of faith. I'm making this part up, so take this and obviously everything else with a grain of salt. But faith in this particular Buddhist view that I was trained in does not mean believing in something. In fact, all beliefs are considered obstacles, which is interesting. Rather, faith means you have a practice, whatever it is, you investigate your inner world, you make efforts to have good conduct and awareness of profound teachings, and you test everything against your own intelligence. It's very, very, very important. I say often, parenthetically, don't take my word for that or anything, and I really mean that, because your intelligence is the teacher. So you hear things, you contemplate things, you test things, you check things, you push back against things, and then you discover what makes sense to you, what for you bears out. Not what I say, not what anybody says, but yeah, I've thought about this teaching and I have verified it. And now faith means you act in accord with what you have studied and verified. It doesn't have anything to do, again, with what you believe, and everything to do with bringing your wisdom to life by living in its light. That's faith. That's propagating prajna. The seventh characteristic of the Dharmic person, and the last one before we go to our podcast after party and listen to some music together, is called an attitude of goodness. This is a tough one. I mean, we could make many arguments for having an attitude of badness. I'm bad, you're bad, so many bads, such badness. Fair enough. That's real. But attitude of goodness here doesn't mean there is no such thing as badness. It's a weird sort of spiritual sleight of hand that you play with within yourself in the effort to turn on its head what most of us were brought up to believe, which is an attitude of badness. You're bad. Something bad about you. If only you weren't so bad, you could be cool, go somewhere great, maybe in the afterlife, but you got some cleaning to do. You got some fixing up to do. You have some apologies to make. You have some amends to make. You start out not good. And depending on the choices you make in your life and in your heart, you can fix that. Okay. I don't know about that one. I don't live in that one. In the Buddhist view, it's the opposite. You are not born bad and therefore are responsible for fixing something. You are born good. You were born whole. You were born complete. And any notions to the contrary are a sign of confusion. So the confusion needs fixing, not you. So once I heard this anecdote from the teacher, Sharon Salzberg, who teaches quite beautifully on loving kindness and many other things, that she, long ago in the early days of Buddha Dharma in the West, was at a gathering with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And most of the Buddhist teachers, Westerners, who were in attendance to hear the Dalai Lama were therapists who had brought meditation instruction into their professional world, and not to mention their personal world. So at one point, one of the participants asked the Dalai Lama, how do I help people who suffer from low self-esteem? And apparently, according to the story, the Dalai Lama went back and forth with his translator. What is this low self-esteem? What is he talking about? And eventually the translator communicated means when you don't like yourself, something I'm sure more elegantly said than that. The Dalai Lama was like, what? I never heard of that. And the person said, well, actually, I have it too. Dalai Lama was like, no way. Does anybody else here have that? And basically everyone in the room raised their hands. And he was like, do you have this? He was pointing, do you have this? Do you have this? And everyone he pointed to said, yeah, I have that. And his response was, how can you not like yourself when you possess Buddha nature? So that's a good question. Something to contemplate. The ultimate attitude of goodness is resting in confidence in your inherent wakefulness, your Buddha nature. So I'm trying right alongside you, by the way. So thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, which I hope you did, please share it with a friend. You could leave a review of this podcast. I think I mentioned last time I don't do much in the way of marketing. It's not because I'm humble, because I don't know how. So your kind referrals, word of mouth, that's what will help this podcast to continue to breathe. And if you have a question or a reflection that you'd like to share, somewhere in the show notes, there's a link to a form where you can ask me that question or share that reflection, or you can DM me on Instagram, where my name, shockingly, is Susan.Piver, Piver. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening, watching, being here together with me. And now on to the musical portion of our show. I would like to share with you a song, very simple. It's an a cappella version of a song that I'm pretty sure you never heard, sung by someone I'm pretty sure you never heard of. But the song is great, and she is great. / was great. She passed away about a year ago. The song is called Swim Away, and it's sung by an incredible vocalist named Tony Price, who lived here in Austin. And when I was in the music business, I worked for a record label called Antone's Records. Still exists, still great. And we had the incredible good fortune to release her record. Her first album that she ever made was called Swim Away. So Swim Away is the title track of this recording. And it's written by an incredible songwriter named Gwil, Gwil, Owen, who Tony loved. And many of the songs on Swim Away and that she did in her live performances were written by Gwil. And his songs are just jewels. Now, Tony was a complicated person. And one of the most interesting bits of her complexity, because I knew her quite well at that time, was she had no interest in becoming a star. A lot of real artists and real musicians are not interested in that, but she was against that. She was an extraordinary talent. And if she had wanted to go on the road and I don't know what, try to get songs on the radio, she could have done that. But she was a rebel and a contrarian, a pain in the bleep, if I may say, and brilliant and unpredictable and everything you might want in a real artist who would also drive you completely crazy. So once, at some point early in her career, she had a meeting with a major label, as we used to call them, with the head of the label, who was a renowned producer and nurturer of talent for decades. So a very important person in the music business back in the day. And he really wanted to sign Tony to his record label. And to convince her to sign with him, he said, we're going to pull out all the stops for you. We're going to promote the hell out of you. We believe in you. I mean, the words that any musician or any artist would want to hear. We have an incredible promotions team. We're going to get your songs on the radio, and we can get you on the Tonight Show. Whoever was hosting it back then, I can't remember. We're going to get you on the Tonight Show, probably Jay Leno. And her response was, I'm going to curse. Why would I want to be on the fucking Tonight Show? So she was like, I'm having none of this. I'm having none of this world of conventional success, my friends. Anyway, may she rest in peace. Now, this song, Swim Away, I think I mentioned it's a cappella, so you can really hear the beauty and strength and tenderness of her voice and the straightforwardness. There's no trilling, there's no frills, there's no, extraneous vocalizing. It's a very pure performance without being performative of pure performance, if you catch my drift. It's just straight up. It's a song about presumably a fish or a mermaid, let's say, who wants to get back in the ocean but can't. The lyrics talk about the longing to get back to the sea while feeling and being completely landlocked. One of the lyrics is something like, I've got to get back to the sea. Will the sea take me back? will I still know how to act? So when Tony died, she wasn't young, but she was definitely not old. All I could think of was the sea took her back. And I have no doubt that she knew exactly how to act. So God and Goddess speed, Tony Price. Finally, the last thing I'll say about the extraordinary swim away is when I die, if anybody wants to play a song at my funeral or whatever it is to commemorate my life, I want this song, Swim Away. Said from deep within the realm of the double Pisces. So please enjoy listening. Let me know what you think if you wish. Till next time.
The tide is in, but I don't see it. I'm in Ohio. Dolphins swim, but I don't follow. I'm in Ohio. And I've got to get back to the shore. I gotta get back to the shore. Oh, I've got to swim away. Look at me, I'm not really human anyway. It's so hard for me to act this way, so far from the sea. It's killing me. I've got to swim away. Will the sea take me back? Will I still know how to act? Something's gotta change. I can't go on this way. I'll give this body to the waves, and then I'll swim away. A million years since I left the sea. Life above is so hard on me. It's so hard to catch my breath. It'll be my death unless I swim away. I've got to